Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing nonprofit, educational, or personal use, tips a balance in favor of fair use. Okay, this is from Bitter Winter. This is a continuation from what I had read the other day. Scientology Secular Courts and Disconnection Fairgame Policies 2. Suppress persons and fair game. Dated 11/11/2022. Massimo Intro Ving. A suppressive person is a non-Scientologist. Listen to that statement, you guys. The short-lived fair game policy mean that actions against them were not punished by Scientology's ecclesiastical courts. Why we are wearing masks? Google fair game Scientology. Well beyond its historical meaning as a policy, fair game has now become a slogan used by the anti-cult opponents of Scientology. Among the most controversial features of Scientology ethics are the notions of suppressive persons, fair game, and potential trouble sources. They are often misinterpreted and need to be clarified by putting them into historical context. In the 1960s, Scientology's founder, L. Ron Hubbard, allegedly, proposed a number of reflections on what was making the progress of Scientology more difficult than he expected. As all newly established religions, Scientology encountered external opposition from a variety of sources. Very generic as usual. Hubbard singled out these opponents. Mind you that just asking a question, like the last 5 years, all of a sudden you're labeled some negative term, negative title. Not even allowed to ask a question. Hubbard singled out these opponents. That's just a phrase he's using. Just questioners who consciously tried to suppress Scientology. No, they're just asking questions, especially about the crimes, and labeled them as suppressive persons. Hubbard wrote that a suppressive person or group is one that actively seeks to suppress or damage Scientology or a Scientologist by suppressive acts. Suppressive acts are acts calculated to impede or destroy Scientology or a Scientologist. I just take these definitions with a grain of salt because somebody who really wanted to expose it would really get into detail what it meant. You guys get it? These definitions were included in an HCO, Hubbard Communication Office, policy letter dated December 23, 1965, which in fact modified a similar policy letter of March 7, 1965. Originally misdated as March 1, 1965. The changes introduced are listed at the bottom of the December 23rd document. Do you guys know where we can get a hold of these Scientology policies? I would like to read some of them online. That's free to do. It's free. You might have a copyright, but it's free to read things online. Although some of its provisions were later canceled, right? The policy letter of December 23, 1965 remains of crucial importance for its theatrical content. Hubbard took a grim view of the SPs and their motivations. Remember when I when I showed you guys what suppressive was on the Gematrinator. The Gematrinator is a gematria calculator that is like one of the basic calculators that people that use gematria utilize, like Zachary K. Hubbard, as well as Simple Truth TV. I believe it was a 47. Shocking. He wrote, have been traced to quite sordid, hidden desires. In one case, the wife wanted her husband's death so she could get his money. Always against the women, you notice that? And fought Scientology because it was making the husband well. Could he have been projecting some of his situations? And you know, he likes to marry 2 women at once, which is against the law in the United States, allegedly. And I'll also notice they always put the better looking pictures in these articles. Do you guys ever wonder why that is? Because you know, when they want to disgrace a celebrity, they put the most horrible, ugliest pictures online, and it used to be on the television or newspapers. If you guys remember when Roseanne Barr was speaking out about certain things, they put the worst looking pictures of her on the television shows, in the newspapers, and online. Hubbard discussed 2 different problems: how to handle the SP and how to handle the Scientologists who were influenced and manipulated. Well, that's actually what he's doing, but by the SP. It's just demonizing people that ask questions. You have a family member that doesn't really like what they see in Scientology or in their relative that are getting into Scientology, right away you're the enemy. Because if you weren't the enemy, then it would be, Scientology would not be able to thrive the way it does. But it's crumbling. As for the first problem, Hubbard's letter instituted the policy of fair game, which would later become the source of innumerable controversies. A suppressive person or group becomes fair game. Hubbard explained, by fair game is meant may not be further protected by the codes and disciplines of Scientology or the rights of a Scientologist, you know, like a child. Additionally, a truly suppressive person or group has no rights of any kind, as Scientologists and actions taken against them are not punishable under Scientology ethics codes. There's no doubt that Hubbard regarded SP as inherently dishonest persons, you know, like him. He's actually talking about himself. But 2 words in the last sentence are important. The first is truly. Declaring somebody suppressive, you know, like a child, like Kelly Copter's parents did with her, should not be taken lightly. A person or group may be falsely labeled a suppressive person or group. You guys notice the similarities in the not C era with the yellow star? Yellow star? It's not an accident. Hubbard noted in the same document, and he cautioned that the imagination must not be stretched to place this label on a person. Errors, misdemeanors, and crimes. Isn't that practicing law outside of the United States? You guys, I wish I could talk to one of you guys that understands what law or amendment it is that tells people that you are not allowed to practice or have any other set of laws other than the governing country of the United States. I know it's there somewhere, but yet Scientology is allowed to do this, talk about their own laws. Just the same thing as far as nobody that is a so-called citizen, and that's a long story, are allowed to have a monetary system outside of the United States of America monetary system. But weirdly enough, Scientology is allowed. Don't you guys wonder why that is? Hubbard noted in the same document, and he cautioned that the imagination must not be stretched to place this label on a person. Okay, I already did this. Only high crimes do so. By high crimes, Hubbard meant actions consciously aimed at destroying Scientology. What is it that L. Ron Hubbard talks about? Destroy them utterly? There's something that comes before that, but you have to destroy them utterly, your enemies. LAPD is fine with all that stuff. The second key part of the sentence is that SP have no rights as Scientologists. Made up construct by an ignoramus, nut job, failed military blacktooth, potbelly, believes it's okay to kiss a 7-year-old girl on the lips passionately. Actions against them by Scientologists are not punishable by Scientology's ethical committees. Obviously, this does not mean that SP lose their normal human rights as citizens. Nothing in the letter incites Scientologists to commit illegal acts against SP. I'm sorry, you guys, this seems really pro-Scientology. I apologize. The other one wasn't like this. Not to this level. However, the term fair game was open to arbitrary interpretation and abuse. Not to mention how it can be used by opponents to attack Scientology. Don't you guys wonder why Scientology has so many opponents and so many enemies? 3 years after it was introduced, the fair game law was canceled by another HCO policy letter. Right. Dated October 21st, 1968. Not unexpectedly, opponents of Scientology still mention the short-lived fair game policy to characterize any action taken by the Church of Scientology against them. But what about those inside Scientology, like children, who were controlled or manipulated by the SP? Hold on a minute. These were defined as potential trouble sources. The category had been introduced before 1965. An HCO policy letter of October 27th, 1964, referred in its title to troublesome sources and distinguished between different categories of threatening sources. It's always the same. You guys notice? Anybody that's really in the know will understand what I'm saying. It's always a threat, like the 5 levels, the 5 threat levels. If you know, you know. Or it's the T word, the TERR word, that one. Or it's they're coming to get us, or it's the enemy, or the opponents, or the antis. It's a formula. The first of 10 categories concerned persons intimately connected with persons, such as marital or familial ties, of known antagonism. And antagonism actually is just asking questions. Like, where's Shelley? To mental or spiritual treatment, or Scientology in practice. Such persons, even when they approach Scientology in a friendly fashion, have such pressure continually brought to beat upon them by persons with undue influence over them that they make very poor gains. This has to be a Scientologist. Well, anyways, this looks to me like Scientologist writing this. That they make very poor gains, that's a Scientology term, in processing, otherwise known as auditing or truly interrogation. And their interest is solely devoted to proving the antagonistic element wrong. So you got antagonistic, you've got opponent, you've got enemy, you've got the WOG word, you've got suppressive, threatening sources. My question is, why do you have so many enemies? Like, you got a problem in your head? They, the policy letter continued by experience, produce a great deal of trouble in the long run, as their own condition does not improve adequately under such stresses to effectively combat the antagonism. Their present time problem cannot be reached as it is continuous. Hubbard's reflection on how the PTS and their relationship with the SP should be handled with Scientology led to the policies about disconnection, which will be the subject matter of the third article of this series. Okay. There's a lot of Scientology terminology, but that's okay. It just kind of hit me now. It could be even like an ex-Scientologist writing this, or maybe the ex-Scientologist is giving the reporter information. Because it almost seems Scientology friendly. But anyways, it's good information to have. It's good to know about. So I will leave a link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you choose. Otherwise, have an amazing day or night wherever you are. Peace.